We're here.
As long as your sound's good.
Yep.
You're recording.
Yes.
Everyone's good.
There's a card in there.
We're here. We did it.
Yeah, no kidding.
This has taken a minute to pull the trigger, I guess pun intended, but we're here, the American Hunting Podcast.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting, actually.
It really is.
And it's legit. It's not just me and you talking in the truck, finally.
I
We're
know.
actually here, and we got things that we think people are going to want to hear. So we'll see. Hopefully so. I know being our first one, I still made some notes. And then I saved these notes because I figure when we get into Rogan and Corolla territory, these will be, have some value.
Exactly.
Be worth something.
Frame them.
First episode podcast notes. Well, cool. Well, listen, the first thing I want to talk about, just real briefly, and it's, I guess maybe not too briefly. This morning I get to work, I sit down. The first thing I get is a Google alert of a hunter that's died, and this time in Ohio. We had a hunter die on the 15th of October, is the first one I think we know of, in Louisiana. Wednesday, the 24th of October, a guy dies. I guess he was 48 years old. He is in Ohio, goes hunting alone, doesn't come home. Wife sends the police out, obviously, to look for him, and they found him at the base of a tree. And they look up, and his lock-on stand had collapsed, and allegedly or apparently he had fallen 30 feet and died right there. So, God, we talk about this stuff all the time, and I'm really kind of over it. You know what I mean?
It's one of those things where the last few years, your involvement with the Tree Stand Safety Awareness Foundation, obviously, is a big part of this too, but we have this conversation more than we have to have this conversation. And we had a thing where we were talking about, and we said, don't be a statistic, go home, be a father, be a son, be a grandfather. I can't imagine my brother going hunting and I get a phone call saying he's not coming home. That's insane to me. And it happens every year.
It's really ridiculous. I said a minute ago I was over it. I don't mean I'm over it like I'm moving on. I mean, I'm tired of having this conversation.
We're fed up with it.
So preventable, and we don't have a lifeline here at the office to
They're
display.
in our trees.
They're in our trees.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're using them. This is a tree rope that goes just around the tree, and we're taking these off of all of our trees and putting lifelines on. If people don't know what a lifeline is, this is a rope, and it's a high quality climbing grade rope. It goes around the tree, and then there's a prusik knot on it, and if you're just listening, it's kind of hard to picture, but that prusik knot actually keeps you in your stand. You can't fall. So these were invaluable for years, and then just a few years ago, I was introduced to a lifeline, and now they become kind of mainstream, but it's basically the exact same thing. It just goes all the way to the ground, and then you tie it off at the bottom of the ground, and that knot slides from the ground up to the tree stand and back down with you. You're literally connected the whole time. You can't fall.
Yeah, my foot doesn't even touch a ladder unless I'm connected. I don't understand. I know it seems maybe a little extreme, but it's just not worth the risk. As much as we love going out and hunting and hanging stands and shooting deer and doing all these different things, it's not worth dying over. You know what I mean?
No, that's the thing is we're not talking about you broke both your legs. We're not talking about a lengthy hospital stay or even that you're in a wheelchair the rest of your life. You're dying.
You're not coming home.
You're not going home. Somebody has to have a conversation with your kids and explain to them what happened. And it kind of all ties together. There's been a slight decline in hunters over the last 4 or 5 years, and we won't go all into that on this episode. But, when mom has to tell the two kids, hey, dad had an accident, and, he's not coming home, and he died out there, I'm going to guess they don't hunt. They're probably done, Hopefully not. Surely they're probably done for a while. And I didn't know this man or his family, so I'm not speaking for him, but come on, man. I mean, use lifelines, use harnesses. And this guy's 48, this man. The guy that died in Louisiana was 33. These are mentors to somebody. They're showing somebody else how to hunt, everything involved. Mm-hmm. And if you're not showing kids, young people, or even adults how to stay safe, and just don't even show them how to hunt, because you're not doing any of us any favors if you're not telling them how to be as safe as possible.
It's funny you say it that way, because I've only been deer hunting. This is my third season. I've never been exposed to hunting without a lifeline, without a harness. And maybe that I'm lucky in that way. Hunting with you, I just don't know any different. So even the thought of getting in a tree stand with nothing on,
Yeah.
just even thinking about it makes me just a little nervous. So, it's a habit for a lot of guys, and we understand that. And we see conversations on Facebook pages and groups and things, and guys they're in the habit of not wearing one. And you got to break it. Guys say it's too expensive. They say it's inconvenient. It's, dying is expensive.
Right. It's restrictive
for your family. You know what? That's
my favorite. My favorite point is they're too restrictive. Dude, you're standing on a 2 foot by 2 foot metal platform in the middle of a tree. You're restricting yourself already.
Right.
There's nothing restrictive about it, but it's an evolution. When I first started hunting, I had basically what was 2 waist belts. So a waist belt goes around my waist. There's a little tag on it, and then the other belt goes around the tree, and then that's just it. And I was being safe. There were people like, "Why are you wearing that?" I'm like, well, because I don't want to fall out of a tree. Well, they found out that if you did fall, you actually invert and you hang there until you die.
not the best.
Allegedly,
Yeah.
But I never fell. But I was being safe as I could be. And then, obviously that went to harnesses. Now it's gone to lifelines. The stands are safer. Tree Stand Manufacturers Association does everything they can do to make sure that the stands themselves are safer. But even it continues to evolve because now we're seeing box blinds. Now guys they'd rather hunt out of a box blind. And they're even bow hunting out of box blinds. So, I don't know where it'll stop. I love sitting in a tree. When I can't climb a tree and sit in a tree, maybe I'll get in box blinds. But until then, I'm, harness, lifeline, stay connected.
Ultimately, with us starting this podcast, we were excited about this yesterday. We knew today was going to be the first day we were shooting this thing and having a conversations we've been having for years. And we decided to turn a camera on and a microphone on. Walking in this morning and you got a notification from TSSA about another guy that died. It makes this whole thing, it dampens the enjoyment just a little bit, knowing that, because we were hunting yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That if we weren't wearing that stuff, that could have been one of us. So
Absolutely.
Coming into work, being in the hunting industry and having to hear these things and have these conversations, it's not fun. And it's hard because you can connect with people sharing a passion of hunting. Just imagine that being the reason you die because you weren't being safe. It's just,
Yeah.
It resonates with me personally. So, it is important to have these conversations, and this wasn't the direction I thought we'd be talking about this morning, but
Well, yeah, it's felt like we had to talk on it. We had to mention it.
Yeah.
So, and we can move on. I do want to mention real quick, the Tree Stand Safety Awareness .org is the website. If you want more information on that, Bobby can put it on the screen.
yep, we'll link that too.
Yeah. So what's our podcast going to be about though? If that's not,
Well,
what else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so we've been working together for a few years now, and we have conversations on all the big 3 that you're not supposed to, whether it's sports, religion, politics. We'll talk about all that stuff. I think we're going to leave that out of this podcast, but it makes a lot of sense for us to do this, I think, because I've recently started hunting within the last 3 years, and there's just a lot of things I don't know. So every time I get out in the field and I'm on a farm, I'm hanging stands, I'm constantly learning things, and I have questions that are probably ridiculous questions that, frankly, I think guys might be scared to ask online if they don't have a mentor. And I've seen guys, especially on Facebook and some of these groups, man, they'll ask a question and they just get eviscerated. I mean, guys just light them up. And it's crazy because it seems like the question is coming from a genuine place of curiosity and they want to learn this. And when you get, I don't want to say an elitist attitude, but when you get a response like some of these, and it doesn't always happen, but sometimes guys will just treat them like they're idiots, and it's like that drives people away. So I'm fortunate enough to hunt with you, work with you in the hunting industry. I feel comfortable asking questions. So I think if you and I are having conversations about, the view of a third-year hunter and a guy who's been hunting for almost 30 years, there's a big knowledge gap there.
Sure.
So that's why this makes sense for me to have this podcast, because I know other guys are in my position too, and they have these questions and they don't know who to ask, and sometimes they don't know what to ask. Perfect.
And I might not have my answer might not always be shared by people. So, they might say, well, that's not how I do it. I mean, you think about field dressing a deer, I'm a pelvic splitter. That's taboo for some guys. I was even called one day, you're a pelvic splitter. Like, what is that? But that's how I do it. Who cares? The thing is, most hunters, almost all of us, have common ground. You talk about the big 3 in religion and politics. Most hunters are probably going to share those views. Most, but boy, you walk in on somebody's hunting ground, or you cross them somehow, man, they'll come out. So yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I grew up going to Indianapolis 500. There's nothing that I enjoy more than taking somebody new to the 500. It's the first time they've seen it, and they're just, oh, wow, this is what I've been missing.
Biggest sporting event in the world.
Yeah, and hunting's the same way. I really get enjoyment out of seeing new hunters hunt, being with them, showing them what to do, where to go, all that kind of stuff. And you're a perfect example of that. And then Connor's been on our staff about a year. Just this morning, we got him a new tree stand, and like, okay, here you go. Here's how you hang your tree stand, and hopefully he goes out and stays safe. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. So let's talk about a little bit about where we are hunting wise this season. We were hunting almost a week ago, and on our lease in southeastern Indiana, and out steps a bona fide giant.
I was sitting in a stand that we hung. It was one of the first ones we hung, and we kind of knew where it was at on the corner of the property, overlooking a field, probably going to be a gun stand, and at the very least an observation stand. And I knew that sitting there Sunday. So I had the camera out there. I had the nice lens, and we had some deer on trail cams, and we were excited. And then these two studs walk out, and it's for me. So my first 2 years deer hunting weren't as fruitful as I would have hoped. We had a lease that we had some trespassing issues on, and that kind of ruins the situation for us. But we dealt with that the best we could, and I didn't see a lot of activity. I didn't really get to learn a lot from that experience when it comes to hunting and how to hunt big deer and how to do things the right way. I learned how to deal with trespassers, but I guess that's a different story.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
Yeah, and then last year was just a weird one for us because we had a spot that you look at the aerial on paper, it's supposed to be a paradise. The landowner literally he had a field that was secluded. He literally called it the Turkey Bowl.
Right.
And we saw one turkey. It was the most confusing situation.
It was a bust. To this day, I can't put my finger on it. I don't know why.
I don't either.
Just don't know. We had pictures of pretty good deer too.
So this year is exciting because we got a new lease and checking cameras and just prepping for the season, and this is all still new to me, being 3 years in. So when I see those two deer walk out, I'm just like, this is what it's all about.
It is.
This is what it's all about. So yeah, we were there Sunday and we saw those two guys.
But, you mentioned a minute ago being an observation stand and the fact that this was a new lease and we walked on it and the woods was really thick. So we set up what you call an observation stand. You're exactly right. And you observed that night. You had no shot. He wasn't even coming over near us. And it is a rifle. We've actually changed out yesterday. Put in a ladder stand for a rifle season if we haven't done anything since then. But you mentioned something to me yesterday in the truck that said you didn't feel like you were deserving to kill that deer.
That.
And you're going to have to explain that a little bit because I didn't really get it. Are you talking about you're not deserving that it's such a magnificent animal that you don't want to harvest or kill it? Or do you feel like you've not put in enough time in your hunting experience?
Yeah, that's
to have that right.
So it's the latter more than anything. It's I'm hunting with you and another guy you've been hunting most of your lives.
He taught me how to hunt.
And he taught you how to hunt.
Right.
I'm the new guy here, and I'm still learning. And seeing those deer, taking those pictures, that was exciting. I told you how excited I was just taking a picture of those guys. Right. And being able to actually kill that deer, if I have an opportunity to do it, I feel like I'd be taking something away from you and Tim just because you guys have been putting in the work. And I get it. We're all on the lease together, but, I don't feel like I've earned that yet. Does that make sense?
Kind of. Whack it. You get a chance to kill that deer. There won't be two happier guys than me and Tim. Sure. We'll drag that dude out for you. And we'll take all the pictures and yeah. But if I get a chance, I'm flinging an arrow.
Absolutely.
I got no problem with it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he's pushing. I think he's pushing 170 and just a stud of a deer. But, in all honesty, this is a new lease for us. And so we didn't know. We had an idea. It's a low corner with a drainage that connects to a fence row. So it's like they're probably going to come out here. But lesson learned, we didn't just go plowing through the woods, in July when we got this place, or even recently. Hang 3 or 4 stands on the perimeter, put some cameras up, get out of Dodge, check them every once in a while, and then we'll start to move in. Do I want to kill a big deer this year? I do. Do I want to kill 2 or 3 does? I do. But I want this lease long term.
Yeah.
I want to stay here 4, 5, 10 years. And so I feel like it's best to just play it slow. We're still going to get a chance to kill deer.
Sure.
And coyotes and turkeys and all kinds of stuff because, this lease is an annual lease. We can mushroom hunt. We can do anything we want for the full year, recreationally speaking.
Sure.
So I don't know. I'm excited about it. And then when I saw him, you saw him in the morning. That evening I saw him. We had what we call we've called a standoff before where he wasn't coming and I was already up like this. And so I lean over and I kind of get my grunt tube and give it a but, and then he's staring in my direction. And so I'm locked up for a better part of an hour because I don't want to blow a 170 off our lease.
Sure.
If he makes me, he's leaving. And he's probably going to find someplace else to bed for at least for a little while until a pretty girl brings him back. But,
Yeah.
So
I saw him this last Sunday, and then we went out yesterday morning, and I sat in a stand that it was basically on his trail that he had walked on Sunday. So I was on edge for literally the whole time. And there was a shooting lane, and I had to be standing to get a shot in that lane. So I was just so excited. I was anticipating him, making that same walk there. It didn't happen, which is fine, but it's just cool to see, you observe things, you learn about your property, you can set up stands, you can learn movement. All these things are I've never done all this before, and I feel like this lease is the first year I've had an opportunity to really learn how this works, how to actually hunt, not just go out and kill a deer.
Right, or just go out and sit in a tree.
Sure.
A blind tree. And, I was talking to Connor earlier. I was like, here's the tree stand. Here's how it goes up. It needs to be in a straight tree, basically, because it's a ladder, I was like, but don't just find a straight tree.
Right.
And hang it and go like, this is a good tree. I'm comfortable. If they're not coming by there,
right.
You got to find where they're coming by. And it's to the point where, maybe new hunters are like, exactly where do you sit? Find trails. A trail is the most obvious, easiest thing to set up on, So if you find a deer trail with deer tracks in it, maybe even some deer poop, whatever, that's where you need to set up first, or set up a place where you can see that trail. If it leads into a field, if that's where they're coming out, just kind of confirm their movement and, away you go. It's not, you just have to go do it, man. I mean, literally. And as obviously we work for the American Hunting Lease Association and we do lease and we promote that and we will provide all the tools people need to lease, but we're pro hunting.
Yeah.
We want people to go hunt. I mean, I think I can't remember. I should have looked it up. It was like 600,000 acres of public land in Indiana. Every single person that can hear my voice right now owns land. We all own land. Everybody owns land because every state has public land of some type. There's 600,000 acres. You hear all the horror stories about public land hunting and all that kind of stuff. However, there's public land down near our lease.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the first truck down there yesterday.
Yep.
And it's getting kind of, that's middle of the week kind of stuff, but it's getting right. But up until now, you could have walked in there and been alone and taught yourself how to hang a stand.
Right.
And this is where I want to sit and do all that. But you just have to get up, go there, park your truck,
Yep.
walk in and start hunting. It's the only way to learn.
That's why I enjoyed the Big Oaks Wildlife Refuge.
Okay.
Hunting that with you, just because it was so different than anything I've done the last couple of years. It really was 100% blind. I mean, we went in there, we got drawn for the no-show.
It's a military refuge
It's
hunt.
a military refuge hunt. And you put in for that and got drawn, and then we ended up getting a no-show draw, and then you picked a zone, and we drove up there and walked in, and we figured it out. And that learning experience for me was interesting, just because it was, I didn't have a chance to look at an aerial and plan things. It was just like, let's see what happens. And you have a deer hanging in your office right now that you killed at Big Oaks.
Yeah, I loved Big Oaks. In fact, I like a hunting trip. One of my favorite parts of a hunt is the night before. It's packing. It's knowing that I'm ready to go, and when we get up in the morning, we're driving somewhere. I like that. I love the hike. I like to hunt backcountry, all that kind of stuff. So, I actually enjoy that, and I think it was an invaluable lesson to new guys. It's because it's another opportunity where people, we tend to hear people complaining that access is dwindling. It's not. You just have to take advantage of what's offered to you. That's 50,000 acres. They control it, so there's not too many hunters in a particular place. And it's a little bit like playing the lottery. It's not 1.6 billion like it was the other night, but a giant could step out at any time. It's
You got
50,000
one.
acres. Yeah. So, I mean, you kind of got to know what you're doing in that direction or what you want to do, I should say. We have, we've talked a little bit about the fact that the industry is losing hunters. Let's see. I think it was 16%. So the U.S. Division of Fish and Wildlife does a study every 5 years. The last one they published was 2016. We lost 1.6 million hunters from 2011 to 2016.
Were they able to pinpoint the reason for that?
No.
Or is it just we
Not
know we're
really.
losing?
Yeah, we just know that we're losing hunters. Now, some people say statistically that's not even significant because if we, in the next study, it continues, that's a trend, now we got a problem.
Yeah.
It could be an anomaly or something, of that nature. And every state reports differently. The reporting system could be pretty bad. But so yeah, we know we're losing hunters. So that's another reason I like to take new hunters is for that reason. But we need to reach out to adults. If you're a hunter or even a fisherman or a wildlife watcher or a hiker, anything like that, you want to be outside. Talk to the people that sit next to you at work. Talk to the guy that's, you see in the morning when you get to work or in the evening when you get back or anything like that. And if he's showed any interest or she showed any interest in, do you like deer meat? How do you cook it? Hey, you want to go? I'll take you sometime. Be that person. People think that it's all kids. We got to get kids into hunting. Of course we do. That's a great thing. But I'm more interested in taking people, adults who have no entry into this sport and showing them, hey, here's how this works.
That's me. I had no entry into the sport. Looking at it, the outside looking in, hunting seemed intimidating. I don't know what kind of equipment to buy. I don't know.
But what's intimidating about it?
It just seems like such a big undertaking.
But are you intimidated by what people are going to think if you ask those questions? Because it's just you and nature. I mean, there's nothing to be intimidated by.
Yeah, I can only speak for me personally. I didn't know where to start, period. And then from what I see, some of the conversations online and stuff, I can understand why people would be turned off based on some of the responses they get, but that wasn't necessarily the case for me.
Right.
It's just, I've hunted upland game bird for probably half dozen years or so in South Dakota with my family. My uncle, my grandpa, those guys taking me out and showing me how to do it made that, it helped me understand that. I didn't have anybody to do that deer hunting with. And when the concept of deer hunting, buying a stand and finding a piece of property to hunt and going out and hanging, it just seemed too big for me to comprehend, too much to do. And I knew I would do something wrong, and then it wouldn't result in me maybe killing a deer. I would get discouraged and I wouldn't want to do it anymore. So having someone like you or Steve or whatever kind of show me the ropes helps get you to the point where now I'm starting to become passionate about deer hunting.
So just because knowing you are on the right track helps you take the next step.
It does. It doesn't. It gives me more confidence that okay, I'm doing this thing the right way. I can have
Makes
success
sense.
doing this, and it's not. When you see the glamour shots on social media of guys with just monsters. Even I killed my first buck last year, and it was a little 6-pointer, and I could not have been more excited about it. You laugh about the text I sent you because I was like, I wasn't cold, but my whole body was shaking. And I was
that's what you're looking for.
and it was so cool. It was an awesome experience. And I'm not going to lie, you get online and you see these guys shooting bigger deer, and I can't help but just be a little jealous of that. I just going, my deer wasn't, it was special to me, but it's not that deer. You know what I mean?
Your deer tasted better, I guarantee it.
I hope so. I think it did.
Yeah.
Just because of what went into it. And I don't know. Social media is probably another conversation about what its effects on the hunting industry. But, I just think the barrier to entry for me was this thing was so big. It was so robust. I don't even know where to start. So why start? And I started hunting deer as an adult. So I'm one of those people you're talking about.
Well, we'll do a whole podcast on the R3 movement, which is, a movement to recruit new hunters, recruitment, retention, I should say, and reactivation. I think is what it is. And reactivation speaks to those guys who used to hunt and just got out of it and never got back into it, but kind of still want to get back into it. Sure. So, yeah, we can do that sometime. So what about access? Is access, when I talk to people like, well, access is the problem. It's the biggest issue we have is we have no place to hunt. Is that, you feel that, or did you feel it? Or in all honesty, you came to work for us.
I did.
I mean,
yeah, if I didn't work for the HLA, it would be, I'm kind of antisocial anyways. So the idea of walking, the idea of walking to someone's front door, knocking on the front door and asking if I can hunt their property is just uncomfortable for me personally. And I can understand if guys hear no all the time from landowners like that, they can get discouraged, and then that leads them to just, you know what, piss on it. I don't even want to try anymore because I'm just getting shut down constantly. I totally get that. I don't think access, knowing what I know now and being in the hunting industry and the position I'm in, I don't think access is the issue. I think it's obtaining the access. Guys don't necessarily know how to go about it the best way. They don't know what all their options are. And so they just say, well, there is no access. There is. We just have to unlock the key to getting it for you. Right.
I agree with that. And I'm going to tell a real quick story. We have on this new lease, we have 160 acres. It's not a massive lease. On 160 acres, I'm going to guess, and I really don't know, that there's 70 acres of woods, maybe 90 tillable then. There was a patch of 2 or 3 acres of mature timber off of us. Actually, the first time I walked our lease, the fence was down. I didn't realize it. I'm standing in the middle on this edge of this 3 acres of mature timber. I'm like, oh, wow, this is nice, man. I can't wait to hang a stand here. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. And I look at my phone. I'm like, oh, no, I'm off. Yeah. I'm off of us. So, get back on the right side of the fence and I thought, doggone it. That's nice. But there's really nothing else to hunt on that edge of our lease. Or we go to the GIS site. It's a free site. It's Google the GIS for our county, and then pick up or pull up that particular tract of land. Here's the landowners. Do a tiny little bit of research, and we get their phone number. I call them on the phone.
That one good.
I call them on the phone, and I left a message. They're farming. You could tell they're a farming operation. We're right in the middle of harvest. I didn't expect anybody to answer, and they didn't. And I just left a nice message. It just said, here's who I am. I'm hunting a tract next to yours. I know it's only 2 or 3 acres, but it's be really nice to be able to hang a stand in there. Would that be okay? Very next day, I get a phone call from a lady. It says, you know what? We never allow hunters. Seemed like a nice person on the phone. She's like, you're going to be alone in there. Good luck. We wish you well. And it was just, okay. I even said, I was like, okay, would you like to meet us? She said, no, not really. You're fine. You sound great. And so it's really just a matter of I made an offer of not money. I was just like, anything we can do for you, be happy to help. Nope, we're good. Okay, fantastic. Now, I had planned on sending a thank you card for sure.
Yeah.
Take some summer sausage, something like that over there. But yeah, we've got, basically, she gave us the run of that little area. And then what it did was it gave us a whole nother area to hunt on our lease. I mean, it opened up allows us to spread out.
Yeah. We hung a stand there yesterday. And when you were up there hanging it, I'm just kind of looking around going, man, this totally changes the dynamic of our lease. This gives us
it does.
It allows us another, because we can access that piece now from her field and we don't have to disrupt anything. It just, we have a great lease. To me, it was amazing how 2 acres of woods can totally it changes the outlook of it.
It gives you a whole nother option.
Yeah.
And the thing I'm guiltiest of in hunting is falling in love with a tree stand. Man, I know guys listen to this. I'm talking about. We saw that big deer the other day, and I think we've hunted that area 5 times since because everybody wants to see him come back, and that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
And so this gives us an opportunity to spread out. Point being, though, is we actually did 10 minutes worth of work, and a lot of guys that I think complain about, I can't find a place to grant. I knock on doors all the time. Okay, do you really? And I want to be real careful. If you have and you've been shut down,
I'm sure guys have.
Absolutely, but I think a lot of them just don't.
Maybe they did 5 years ago and they haven't done it since.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and one of the things I did want to make people, along those lines is we've got a free downloadable ebook on our website, and it's called "The Secret to Hunting Private Land." You're free to go on our website, ahuntinglease.org, And what we tried to do with this is put together tips when you're knocking on a door of what you can offer now. Here's the thing. We didn't have to pay for that 2 acres. And it is 2 acres. If she would have said, we'll lease it to you, that 2 acres, I would have said, okay, we're paying this amount per acre. Yeah. I'll give you that times $40. 2, yeah. But she didn't, and that's fine. You don't always have to pay. And I get that. But at the same time, there are sales tools now. There are methods of sales or whatever. We don't need to get into that. It's called the wedge, and you got to find out what people's pain points are. People's pain points have changed in 50 and 100 years. They don't need the fence fixed anymore for the most part.
Yep.
And again, yes, there are exceptions. I get that. I understand that. What they need now, for the most part, is they need to know that their liability concerns are met. They need a little extra revenue to help pay for, operating costs and insurance costs and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that does carry more weight. So basically what we've done in this ebook is the secret to hunting private land, and it's nothing, you don't have to read 20 pages before we give you the secret, is taking care of your landowner. And that's something we talk a lot about here, is about landowners. And people forget that the landowner, it's all about hunting, it's deer and it's coyotes and it's all this cool stuff about hunting. And then they don't address the needs of the landowner. And I'm going to read you some right numbers here. I didn't bring my reading
came prepared
here. I did, man. I'm ready to roll in this thing. I take this serious, Joe. So Hunter spent, and this is in 1 year, $25.6 billion, okay, on trips, equipment, licenses, and other items to support their hunting activities in 2016. $25.6 billion. They spent on equipment such as guns, camping equipment, four-wheel drive vehicles. That's 48% of that, or $12.2 billion. $12.2 billion in 1 year. You got all the Under Armour stuff. You got all the Sitka gear. You got the bows. We love Elite bows. But then they don't want to give their landowner any. You know who reads these numbers? Landowners. Like,
they want a piece of that
how
pie.
about a little something for the effort? You know what I'm saying?
Look, they have a resource that you have to have access to use all of the $12 billion or whatever it is that you spend on things. It's worthless if you don't have a place to hunt. And if you don't own land, you need to rely on somebody else's resource. That's just the way it is. Unless you're hunting
100%.
Public. And people do that. And that's great.
We hunt public. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
I love to go down to Hoosier National Forest. We chase turkeys down there. I've deer hunted down there a lot.
I up north I hunt Kingsbury where I grew up. So we
love public ground. I want the government to buy more public
absolutely.
ground. It's good. It's a great resource,
I think guys will agree though, getting access to private land gives them the opportunity to kill that booner, kill those deers that you see on social media that these guys dream about, and it gives you more freedom to control what's going on in that habitat.
And I think that's the bigger lesson. Can you kill a booner? Yeah, but you could kill one on public ground.
Sure.
But you have a opportunity to grow deer, to pass deer that have a better chance of living and becoming older and thus bigger. If that's what you're into. If you want to whack a 6-pointer, a 2-year-old, 1 year, that's fine. We're good with I love all of that. But the landowners have needs because they're paying. They're laying money out for people to come access their property, and they just, it's our position, honestly, that before, we talk about this paradigm shift all the time, before you buy all the stuff that you buy, and we know you're buying it, it's a fact. Ammo, even the hunter who's a little on a tight budget, you're spending some money.
You gotta have equipment.
You got to. And I read something on our Facebook page about leasing is all big dollar clubs. Big dollar. Give me a break. Give me a break.
It's just not true.
It's just not true. The vast majority of guys that we talk to, I always like to say, they shower after work. They come home
guys.
Dirty. They come home sweaty. Mm-hmm. They need to take showers when they get home from work. That's who it is. And they've put a different priority on it. You and I and Tim on our lease, we pay $1,300, mm-hmm. $1,300. Okay, yeah. Maybe somebody's like, "Oh, that's a lot of money," but it is a lot of money. Sure, it is.
But we're prioritizing access to be. We talked earlier about some of the deer we're seeing on this property, mm-hmm. and that $1,300. I understand that I can't buy other things, and that's okay to me throughout the year because I want to be on this property, hunting this property. It means that much to me. You know, you were a firefighter for 26 years. You're not a millionaire rolling around in new trucks.
I am not.
And you've been leasing for decades, you know?
70,000 miles of my truck.
You're the blue collar guy that we're talking about right now. If you have a great story about one of your first leases was like $4,700, and you literally broke it down to per guy what it costs if we're going to hunt this many times. I mean, you can break things down that on a granular level that much. And the lump sum seems like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. I'm not downplaying the fact that each of us paid $1,300. I get that, but if it's really a passion, if it's really a priority, you'll make it work.
Hey, I got a set of golf clubs that maybe got out 3 times this year. Before we, my passions changed. I'd golf 20 times. It's not a big deal. It's what I've decided to do. But I always take exception to the people like, well, we can't afford to hunt now because people are leasing. And it's not true. It's just not true. It's fundamentally wrong. That's nothing that we're going to harp on this podcast. I promise you, because I'm happy to defend it, but I'm also kind of done defending it because it doesn't need defended anymore. If you're not leasing some ground, you might be missing an opportunity. And if you get your ground for free, like we got our 2 acres, God bless. Have at it. Congratulations. Yeah. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
I just want people out in the field. I want to go just kind of back to real quick the secret to hunting private land.
Sure.
Again, I mentioned it's a free download. It's got all the explanations people need in it to access private land. One of the things that's in there you'll find is a link to the free for what we call the front porch kit. And the front porch kit's just that. It's when you go knock on a door, take this with you.
Yeah.
And basically it just shows, here's what we'd like to do. We've got a lease agreement here that if you'd like to, we can sign a contract and we'll agree on a little bit of money. And we can also provide this insurance policy for you, which is $185 is most of them. It's dirt cheap. And you can take that stuff with you, man. That's what landowners want to see. They don't want to see a guy standing on the porch because you're the 3rd or 5th guy that's driven by this week and saw a big deer out there or any bunch of deer or turkeys, and you stopped and you knocked on my door. And by the way, I made a phone call last week for another piece of ground, the borders, and I got, yeah, you can track a deer, but I don't want any hunters on my ground. Okay,
sure,
that's fine. That's absolutely, you're right. And so they don't all work out, that's for sure. But that's what they want. They just want to see somebody with some empathy. Somebody that says, listen, I get it. I know what you're going through, and I know what your concerns are, and I'm here to address those concerns.
It's a responsible way to approach trying to get access to land. It shows the landowner that, look, I've done my due diligence. I take this thing seriously. I'm a responsible person. I'm not trying to, blow smoke or do anything else. I want to have the opportunity to hunt your piece of ground. And
right.
This helps legitimize that stance when you knock on the door.
Right, and it's free. We're just trying to be a resource here. We want to provide as much information and assistance as we can to get people in the field.
Yep.
So you mentioned earlier, and this will be the last thing we talk about, you mentioned earlier that we work in the hunting industry. Mm-hmm. I saw, I want to say it was like Scotty Schultz, Steve Stoltz, doggone it, somebody on a hunting video 20 years ago. He said, make your passion your paycheck. It is the secret to life, man. It really is. And that's, even my family, everybody's family, they're like, I gotta go to work or whatever. My sincere prayer and hope for everybody is that at some point in your lives, you can make your passion your paycheck. I have been blessed to make it my paycheck a couple of times, first in the fire service, and now in the hunting industry. I do want to warn some of you younger listeners or viewers, it's not all hunting 365. It's spreadsheets and conversions and marketing and sales and all those type of things that go into a business, a successful business. But at the end of the day, we also talk about hunting a lot. And so it's been fantastic. And I mention that because I know one of our partners, Basecamp Country, is starting a real estate company. Mm-hmm. And if you know the guys from Basecamp Leasing, and we do, they're first rate. They're going to win. I learned a long time ago, back a winter, they're going to do this thing first class. They're going to be in the recreational real estate industry. And they're looking for agents. They're looking for qualified real estate agents that have a passion for not only helping people find their dream, but put them on, the path to being a landowner.
Yeah, so that's going to start in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky, and Illinois.
Awesome.
So if you're in one of those states and you're licensed and you want a job in the outdoors industry, basecampcountry.com, fill out an application, send in a cover letter, give them a call, just have the conversation at least. You never know what it could lead to. So
yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, if you're tired of showing people houses and condos and you want to put on some jeans and some boots and show them around and identify pinch points and all that kind of recreational good stuff, man, they're going to do a killer job. I promise you that.
Yeah,
so
and we'll put a link to basecampcountry.com in the description. You can go there. Man,
I feel like we're done.
That's episode 1.
Are we done?
I think so. I don't really know how to end this. I didn't think of an outro.
I'm afraid I'm going to look at Connor or Bobby and they're going to be, that was 5 minutes.
It kind of feels like we flew through it, but no, I'm excited about what's to come for this podcast, for what we're trying to do with the American Hunting Lease Foundation coming in 2019.
Yeah.
So we'll have a lot to talk about here soon, and we'll do this thing hopefully once a week and see what we can put out there.
Sounds good.
Cool.
All right, brother.
See you guys.